Hi, I'm Josh Linville. I'm the Vice President of the Fertilizer Division for StoneX Financial Inc. FCM Division. And so this week in the fertilizer industry, a few things have been going on. We expected things to start slowing down as it normally does this time of year, but it's been anything but normal this year. So I don't know why we would expect it this summer. One of the biggest things is President Trump threatening massive tariffs on Russia. It seems that he is starting to grow weary of this Russian invasion upon Ukraine and is now willing to start putting a little more heavy handed tariffs upon Russia until they agree to peace. Now, of course, the world is looking at Russia and saying, "Oh, how this will affect them," but we're obviously looking at it from a fertilizer perspective. Globally speaking, it's not that President Trump is just threatening Russia; he's also starting to threaten any nation that does business with Russia. This puts fertilizer on notice. Russia is one of the largest exporters of every type of major fertilizer out there. So if all of a sudden we have to start wondering, are they going to have destinations, which we think that they will continue to, but if we have to start having that conversation, that completely changes the outlook of the marketplace. And then from a North America perspective, of course, Russia has been one of the larger providers of product for things like potash, urea, and UAN. And so if all of a sudden we do put these duties in place, or I'm sorry, these tariffs in place, now all of a sudden we're dealing with a situation where we have to reshuffle our deck and figure out where are we going to get these supplies from. Things like potash and urea, there are different alternative sources around the world. That shouldn't be as big of a deal. UAN, it provides a very, very big hurdle to jump. The global UAN market is simply too small, too controlled by too few countries producing product to go out there and find another party. So that is the one we're watching most clearly. Second biggest thing that what happened last week, a surprise India urea purchase tender. Now, this wasn't a surprise in that they announced the tender. Everybody in the market knew another one was coming. Very few thought it was coming as quickly as it did. Everybody thought it was still a few more weeks down the road. And frankly, we had seen the urea market starting to fall back, starting to slide a little bit price wise. But suddenly they come in, they're looking for another 2 million ton. And now all of a sudden, the market's all excited. Prices are once again starting to hold steady, starting to push a little bit higher. We'll watch that here in the coming weeks to see how that plays out. Third biggest thing we're watching is phosphates just continuing to creep higher. And the market just continues to ask, how much higher can it go? But as we continue to see, it's India. Everybody is continuing to watch India. And every time there's a new all time, or I'm sorry, not all time, but a new recent high price sold, everybody looks to India and says it must be them. They must be the one doing it. And again, this tells you how hard of a situation India is currently in right now. They're still trying to rebuild those stockpiles that, are still historically low. And on the other side, monsoon season has been very, very good. So as we look at this thing, we know they need to rebuild these stockpiles, and the world continues to take advantage of it. And that sets us into a very, very difficult situation for farmers around the world. Now we're watching the ratio, and when I say ratio, we're talking about the corn to NOLA DAP. And this is a ratio that can be ran anywhere around the world. It's a very simple formula. Just take your fertilizer price and you divide it by the grain price. And what that tells you is how many bushels of grain you're spending to pay for that fertilizer input, which at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. We want to keep those bushels at home. We want to keep them in our silos and our bins. When we look at the corn DAP ratio today, we are within 9 bushels of the record. And I'm no longer talking about the record for this time of year, which is what we've been doing over the last several weeks. We are now within 9 bushels of the all time record. That was set in late 2008 at the peak of the fertilizer market with grain prices starting to fall apart, except this is a little bit of a different situation. Grain prices are not great, but fertilizer prices are not falling apart yet. Even the market talking about a lot of demand destruction out there. This is not only a domestic thing, but a global conversation. Everybody's talking about it, and it doesn't make a difference because supplies are so tight. So that's where we sit with a barge that traded yesterday at 790 and December 26th corn prices continuing to fall. And it was only a few pennies, but sometimes that's all it takes within 9 bushels of setting that all-time record. And that's not a celebration we're going to have, but it is something we are watching very, very closely as that phosphate market continues to try to destroy demand to rebalance the S&D. So just a really quick recap on the fertilizer markets this week. I hope this has been helpful. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we really appreciate you.